Hello.
We have 5 right now. So represents his friends. That appears on his way.
Through the chair.
All set? Okay, council, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Is there any conflict of interest amongst the council members here tonight? Seeing none, I need the adoption of the published agenda, and Rob's got an addition first. Go ahead, Rob.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of amendments. We had a request from Ms. Emery Grant to be a delegate this evening, to be added as a delegate under 6.1.2, and she's here to speak to agenda item 6.1. Secondly, the notice of motion from Councillor Verbeek under 15.1.3 has at the request of the mover been requested to be deferred to the September 21st meeting. And then lastly, we originally over the weekend had a delegation request from a Mr. Paul Fraser and a Miss Rachel Jewell. They were here to speak concerning agenda item 8.2, being the fill permit for Mr. Daryl Dufour on County Road 12. However, just before the meeting, in light of the information or the update information that they received from administration, namely that Mr. Dufour has voluntarily and fully complied with the new fill grading bylaw, they have since retracted their delegation request. So through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if it's council's wish to still deal with agenda item 8.2 or remove that as well from the agenda.
It's up to council. The issue has been already followed through with our administration. He's followed all the guidelines, so I can't see going any further. But it's up to council if they want to hear it out. You want to hear it out or just let it go? Okay, let it go. Okay, thank you. So I need a motion to adopt the published agenda tonight. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
We need a mover and seconder.
Oh, a mover. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Verbeek and Councillor Vanadol. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Adoption of the regular council meeting for August 24th. I need a mover, please. Councillor Bowman and Councillor, need a seconder. Councillor Bondi, all in favor? It's carried. Now, before we go into public presentations here, the first one is going to be Bernard Gorski, and then we're going to go to Anne-Marie Grant. Just to let you know, there's a 5-minute limit on it, Bernard and Anne-Marie. So I'm going to open up first to Bernard. He's first on the list. Go ahead, Bernard. Bernard?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Bernard. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, you have 5 minutes.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor and councilors. This sign application, we've heard a lot about it, and I've made some major concessions to the design of my sign, and I'm reconfiguring it so it could meet the bylaw regulations. A lot of Ontario businesses find themselves struggling because of COVID-19 restrictions, and as such must be careful not to overspend to stay in business. Our business is no different than any other Ontario business. We've been experiencing reductions in customers and alike, just like other B&Bs, restaurants, and other agribusinesses and agritourism in our area. We're doing everything we can to promote business, which in turn will create employment in our community and draw more people to our area, which is good for all businesses along County Road 50. The Ontario government is even asking us to buy Ontario goods and services and help generate jobs to keep our Ontario businesses viable. This is exactly what I'm trying to do. We need council's help with the approval of our sign plan, and that is to construct a sign that meets the bylaws and at the same time is in step with the image you are looking for along County Road 50. I cannot make expensive changes, and I must work within my means using the resources we have. So I'm using the same components in my current sign, just making it horizontal. Our plan is to lower the overall height of the sign to meet the regulations of the sign bylaw. The plan is to make the sign horizontal instead of vertical. The sign will be less than 2 meters in height, and there is a small exception. On the top of my sign, I've got a dome, which is an attractive feature that contains my logo, and that is above the regulation by about 18 inches. This attractive feature adds to the aesthetics as it is part of our sign and our image. And everybody recognizes the logo when they come looking for our winery. I have met with the building inspector and the sign bylaw officer, and we reviewed the design. They think it's okay, but having said that, it is 18 inches larger or 8% larger, which is very minor in nature. The feature requires a site-specific variance, however, because it is over in height with that dome that contains the sale logo that I've got. I'm sure you'll find the new proposal in line with the other signs in our area. And I'm going to be using, I am using sign comparisons that the town has put in front of me up with other neighboring wineries in our area. And they were used as good examples. Our new sign will be close to the same size as the other wineries. And it's actually a little bit smaller than 2 of the other signs that you guys have used for proposals. I hope that I trust everybody has read the proposal and seen the diagram that I presented earlier for this meeting. And I'm really hoping that you'll find it acceptable. Like I say, I've tried to do everything I can, and there's quite a compromise there. And I'm trying to work with everybody. And I hope you find my my sign acceptable. I would like to conclude by thanking you for all of your help in advance in supporting agribusinesses and tourism in our community.
Thank you, Bernard, for the presentation. Any questions to Bernard from council? Seeing none, I need a motion to accept the presentation from Deputy Mayor Meloche. Did you have a question, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, this wouldn't be to the proponent, though, would be to administration.
Go ahead.
So I would ask, I don't know if it's Ms. Chadwick or Ms. Jabor that's available to answer the questions, but specifically, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that this sign bylaw that we have is not specific to County Road 50. It's actually for the entire rural agricultural portion of our community. That's a statement. And secondly, my question would be, what is the definition of a electronic media sign?
Go ahead, Lori. Can you answer that?
I sure can, except I see Councillor Guerin's hand up, so I don't want to overstep.
Okay. Okay, but we had a question first
Sure.
from Mayor Meloche, and then I'll go to.
So yes, the sign bylaw is, it is really a bylaw that enforces signage or sets out regulations rather for signage throughout the entire municipality. Signage regulations are categorized by zoning district. And that is correct, Deputy Mayor Meloche, thank you for that. It is not categorized by road. In other words, residential properties on County Road 50 would be subject to regulations under the residential category in the sign bylaw. Agricultural properties would be subject to regulations accordingly in agricultural district. So the definition of electronic media sign as defined in our sign bylaw is a sign or a part of a sign exclusive of a flashing sign comprising a video, monitor, or an electronic display for the display of images, words, and or numbers in an animated format used exclusively for the purpose of conveying a message.
Thank you. So the proposal is for an electronic sign, but it's not, and it's a stagnant sign. So it's considered to be a legal use then for this purpose in this zoning?
I will be getting, going through a little bit of the report. If this is the proper format, I'd be happy to continue, and that question will be answered during my report.
Okay, that's fine. I can wait for the report, Ms.
Okay.
Chadwick.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think I'm going to go to Councillor Guerin. If there's any other questions from council, then we'll come right back to you, Lori. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Guerin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I'll wait for the full report and I'll comment later. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else before we do the report? I'm going to go right back to Lori. Go ahead, Lori.
You have another delegate, Mayor, right?
Oh, yeah, pardon me. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, we'll go right to Anne Marie first before we go to the report. Go ahead, Anne Marie.
Okay, can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Mayor and Council, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak publicly about this issue that directly impacts the quality of life for my family and those neighbors in the direct vicinity of Cruz Electronic Sign. I went back to rewatch the meeting on January 20th, where Mr. Gorski first asked for the amendment. At that time, Councillor Bjorkman and Bondi, Deputy Mayor Meloche, and Mayor Snively all spoke about the importance of involving the community in any decision to change the bylaw. To quote the mayor, "We have to have public input." To that end, County Road 50 sign survey was envisioned. Thousands of dollars later, the residents have been very clear where they stand on the issue. The survey had 147 respondents, with 77% saying no to the electronic sign and 72 saying no to pole signs. Further to that, we had a petition that was brought forward with over 140 or 150 signatures, the majority of which were signed by residents of Essex County. I want to share with you, I wish we had my presentation, because I had a picture of what you have had in the survey regarding the electronic media. The examples you used in the survey for electronic media were exactly what Mr. Gorski is proposing here. And you never defined what electronic media was in the survey. So you never said to the residents, it has to be animated. They saw pictures of text on a sign, and that's what they were judging. Never at any point was it defined. So hence, when the people were completing the survey, they looked at those images to answer your questions. Do they want an electronic sign on County Road 50? And again, we all know 77% said no. Now you're coming back, the report's coming back, and they're asking council to suggest that this electronic sign is now okay. What happened between January and now? That's my question. Do we not like what the taxpayers have said? Do we not like what the information that they provided? Because all of a sudden now things are changing. Back in January, the sign was unacceptable. Now it's okay. My question is, what happened? The sign Mr. Gorski is proposing today is the exact same sign that he proposed 9 months ago, that he proposed in July at the meeting, that he was going to come forward with in August at the meeting, now coming forth 9 months later. What did we need 9 months? It's the same sign. Jumping ahead to August 24th meeting with Mr. Duford, when he asked for a variance on a permit. These are some of the comments that came forward. The person we should be protecting is the little landowner next door, not the guy who owns 100 acres. That is from Councillor Vanderdolen. If you don't like the bylaw, run to council and get things waived. We might as well tear up all our bylaws, because our bylaws are only as good as they can be enforced. And that was by Kevin Carter. We put bylaws in place. I would like to respect our employees to follow the bylaws. This is why we have bylaws. To come to council and change the bylaws does not make sense. That is by Mayor Snively. My question is, why is Mr. Gorski allowed to come to council and do all this, at where you stand and you're supporting him for 9 months, you're supporting him, when Mr. Dufour asked for a variance and he gets nothing but grief? Is it because he does not have any money? Is that what the question is? How much time and effort and taxpayers' money has been spent in finding loopholes in this bylaw so Mr. Gorski can have his way? I can't believe I can't even get council and administration to return my phone calls and my emails. Again, is it because I don't have money? I don't know. On August the 5th, I asked council and Mr. Nepsey how much money, including human hours, has this file cost taxpayers? The answer is, I don't know, because I can only have 2 councillors respond to me. How much money do residents have to be listened to by this council? The council has spent tens of thousands of dollars of public money on this file so that one person in our community can get his way. In the code of ethics that you all signed, and I'll direct you all to your website. This is 2.01, under integrity. Council members will uphold the highest standard of ethical behavior. This is point A, making impartial decisions that benefit the municipality and are fair and equitable to all residents. To all residents. 77%, that tells me that's the majority. There are 2 types of politicians, those in it to serve their community and those in it to serve themselves. So Mayor and Council, I ask you tonight, and I tell you tonight, there are a lot of people watching. We're going to see what type of politicians you are when we go to this goes to a vote.
Thank you for your comments, Anne-Marie, and I think we have very good council here. So if you want to comment like that, you go ahead and comment like that, but I don't agree with you. So anyways, Councillor Guerin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so just doing my homework on this for the last couple months. I'll just refer to electronic media sign definition of that. I know Ms. Chadwick gave the definition that she believes is written in our bylaw, but just a simple Google search on what an electronic media sign is, and you'll see that it is it's an electronic display or electronic sign, including fluorescent signs, high-intensity displays, which are known as HIDs, incandescent signs, LED signs, and neon signs. Any variation of these types of electronic or illuminated signages in the eyes of anyone in the sign industry is still an electronic media sign. It doesn't matter if it's a static message, doesn't matter if it's non-flashing, if it's in nature to be moving, at the end of the day, it's still an electronic media sign. And according to our bylaw, electronic media signs are not permitted. Referring to the applicant's letter dated August 22nd, 2020, it's enclosed in our agenda. A few things jump out at me, and I think we should pay a closer attention to them. With respect to the applicant talking about times of struggle, such as now with regards to COVID, I'm sympathetic to this point. I feel that COVID has been, it's real and it's been an effect on all of our lives, but we can as a council make decisions, permanent decisions based on times of uncertainty. I think we can make temporary reliefs to some of our bylaws in times like this that we could have maybe done 5, 6, 7 months ago. But to ask for us to look at our bylaws based on a pandemic that's going on right now, I don't think it's right to ask. With respect to promoting local businesses within the community to, with the help of this sign, that's considered third-party advertising. That's also not permitted in our bylaw. His sign face area, he's done a good job in bringing it down. It's within reason. I have no issues with his sign face area. His sign height measurement, I still have an issue with. You have to include all parts of the sign from the grade to the top of the sign. And it's going to measure 7 foot 10 inches, which is 28% higher than what's permitted right now in our bylaw. He talks about his competitiveness within the other wineries and businesses around his area, as if he's at a disadvantage right now. But those wineries were not permitted illuminated signs or electronic media signs. So if we were to allow Crew to have this sign, it's really not fair to the rest of the wineries and businesses. It puts him at more of an advantage. Nowhere in the applicant's letter does it speak to what our residents along County Road 50, what they want. It's quite clear in the recent survey that they completed at our request. They don't want electronic media signs. They don't want pole signs. With the height of his sign, if it's not permitted right now, then I'm assuming that it is no longer a ground sign. It's actually a pole sign. And this is one of the things that they don't want. In addition, I have to continue to go back to the fact that the applicant erected this sign and knew it didn't meet our bylaw. After consultation, he wasn't granted a sign permit, and he still disregarded administration and our bylaw and erected one. I wish Mr. Gorski and Crew all success in the role, but that really leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I'm not going to make a personal decision based solely on that. I'm still looking at everything. But to me, much of the discussion revolved around what the intent of the bylaw is. Is the applicant doing his best to meet the intent of the bylaw? I believe the intent of the bylaw was always to have no illuminated signs or electronic messages of any kind in those designated areas. I believe when council looked at this bylaw back in 2015 or 2016, they took the time and visited wineries in the Niagara region, hosted open houses with our residents. The message was clear and the intent of the bylaw was written. No electronic media signs were to be allowed and no pole signs would be allowed. And that's similar to what's going on in the Niagara region right now. I believe that the same intent applies today. I think we're being asked to fit the applicant's own needs into our bylaw while disregarding the needs of our residents, as well as the time and taxpayer money that we've already previously spent by administration and council. The entire file has been months of trying to fit his illuminated electronic message sign into our bylaw. And because of that, in the fact that I've yielded many messages from those who oppose the application and none from anyone who's in favor of the application, I can't support the application tonight. I think really there's a mix of wording and language trying to make this electronic media sign fit the bylaw. And at the end of the day, it's an electronic message media sign. Whether it's stagnant or not, it's not permitted. That's all I have to say on it. And I wait to hear from everyone else. Thanks.
Thank you. We're not going to carry it. We've been going at this now for meeting after meeting. So We're going to make a decision here very, very, very shortly. But Councillor Bondi, you had some?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in reference to the delegations right now, I believe we're still on the delegations. So Ms. Grant made a reference that lots of taxpayer dollars have been used to create this report. And I think that that's something that this council should have sort of a dollar figure on. Does our administration, through you, Mr. Mayor, does our administration have a tally on hours and cost that we've had on this file? Because there are even in emails from staff members, I have emails that have said other files have gone by the wayside due to priorities. So the affordable housing topic is a priority, and that's not been taken care of, but yet we spent hours on this. So my question is, how much has this cost us, our review? Thank you.
Thank you. Who was next? Anybody else? We're going to go ahead, Councillor Bowman.
Mr. Mayor, I believe I have a question of how much did this cost?
You asked that question before, Councillor, and I don't think we have an answer
because
that.
it hasn't been answered, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Chris, can you answer that?
Well, I can provide an answer, Your Worship, but I can't give her an answer. As noted before in previous council meetings, we do not have that number. We're not set up that way to track, every minute and every task of how we do business. For us, that's the cost of doing business, whether we're working on a sign bylaw or a pothole complaint or whatnot. So it's all part of the functions of our jobs in their completeness here. So we don't have a specific number on that for each file.
Thank you, Chris. Who was next here? Councillor Bowman, I think you were next. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Ms. Chadwick. The lighted portion of the sign as is presented to us, does that presently meet the existing bylaw?
Okay, hey, Mr. Mayor, and if it's okay, then as a part of Councillor Bowman's question and Deputy Mayor Malash's earlier question, if okay with everyone, I'd love to proceed with just a couple of points on Ms. Jabour's report.
Go ahead.
Okay, so here we are. Hello and good evening again. I wanted to touch base on the 3 requested amendments. As we see it administratively, we've done a thorough job in reviewing the revised application for site-specific amendment to the sign bylaw. The 3 amendments that you're seeing tonight include, or rather requests for amendments include an increase of 0.39 meters in the height of the sign. So that's equates to 39 centimeters. And that again, that height is measured from ground to the top of the arch. If we were to take a measurement from the ground to the top, to the rest of the sign rather, it does meet the bylaw height maximum. We're also looking at secondly, an amendment site specifically for crew sign to increase in 0.27 meters squared, which is, sign face area. And that includes the calculation of any part of the sign that can be used to display that message for the sign, which includes that arch or that aesthetic feature in the shape of a circle or arch. And then thirdly, we get to that topic of the lighted sign. So this takes me to what I need to describe to council as a revelation, or rather a recognition in our homework here at the town of Essex, where we've seen an oversight rather, or a situation that we weren't expecting. And what we weren't expecting just came to light in the past month or so. The word lighted sign refers to signage that is defined as a sign used to display the message of a business that is lit either internally or externally. Councillor Guerin has used the word illuminated sign, and I think that does give a great description of a lighted sign. I just earlier gave you the description of an electronic media sign, which what we see as or know as an LED or graphical sign, or a sign that is animated or continuously moves in that animated feature of the message. So a lighted sign is defined in our sign bylaw. what we have not seen, and we've scrolled and combed through each regulation in each section of our sign bylaw, is that it is technically not a use that is prohibited nor permitted in any of our zoning districts. And so the intent, as you see in McDonald's, in a commercial district, or A&W, or a grocery store, or a gas station, these lighted signs, the intent was to always permit these lighted signs. It's unfortunate in that the intent is there. However, an oversight on our part is that we never actually spelled it out. What we've defined is that by definition, a lighted sign is a sign. And so when we look at that definition of sign, we take that into consideration, and we see that it's not something that's spelled out in each district. So our intent is to bring forward an amendment to correct and address this oversight. Again, it's not something I would send my bylaw enforcement team out to enforce McDonald's or Pet Value or any of our lighted signs in any district. Our intent was to permit lighted signs, including in agricultural districts, which what you've seen, for example, is Viewpoint or any externally lit sign, even not a pot light, what are they called? Spotlight. So a spotlight externally lit, that's even permitted as well. So using light to display or to help enhance that signage is permitted. The electronic media component of cruise application is intended to be used as a lighted sign. So this is where that ambiguity or that gray area falls, in that the intent of cruise sign, the media component, although is physically still proposed, the intent is to use it as a lighted sign with a static message. So no animation, no scrolling of any messages across, a banner, for example. But the intent, as we understand it, is a static open for business for the following hours. If I may continue, Mr. Mayor, there was just a couple other points I wanted to make. And just as a, let's go to, oh yes. So where we were on August 24th is that, as you are all aware, we've issued a notice of violation. And what that does is it really allows us now to process the offense should, wherever council goes with this, if council chooses to deny this amendment, and should Mr. Gorski proceed with, or rather, it allows us really to file a Part 3 under the Provincial Offences Act. So it allows the town to process the offense, and essentially allows us to enforce our sign bylaw. And that expires September 23rd. So tonight's decision really will set the tone for how administration proceeds. And as council is fully aware, defending the issuance of any Part 3 under the Provincial Offences Act has cost implications on the town, and it could also delay the final outcome for cruise sign. Finally, actually that's it. And Rita is on standby. I also have Mr. Watson, who's played an integral part in creating, or rather in drafting the original sign bylaw. Mr. Watson is also here to assist if there's anything that Rita or I cannot attend to. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Lori. Lori, before I open up again, council, I have a question for you. We're talking about lit signs, okay? What is the difference? I've got to get this through my head. You have a component that's lit, okay? It's not going to be scrolling anymore, okay? Certain people are complaining about lit sign, but I see signs with very bright floodlights on them on the ground pointing to the sign, okay? And it's lit up all night long. So to me, what is the difference? I just don't get it. I mean, I can see the scrolling sign. I can see the complaint there. I can see that. And it was very, very bright, and he toned it down, but it was very bright, and I could see the complaint there. But what is really the big difference? Why aren't we getting complaints about these bright floodlights on signs?
Well, I think you nailed it, Mayor Snively, in that the difference is the animation or the scrolling of the of the signage. So externally lit signs are permitted. I think it really is specific to the property. If there is a light that is not shining onto the sign and maybe is impacting the adjacent neighbors, we need to know about it. And so I encourage any councillor or resident business owner to provide us with any information on any signs that may be a nuisance. But the requirement is that, or rather the ability is for businesses to light their sign externally or internally. That's the intent.
Thank you, Lori. Anybody else from council? We have to make a decision here tonight. So I don't want to keep dragging this on. This has been going on now for a few meetings, eh? So go ahead, Councillor Verbeek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up a little bit on the last couple of speakers' comments. Mr. Gyortsky, when he spoke, he said that he is attempting everything to fall within our new current sign bylaws. If this is indeed the fact, then, you know, he's taking the sign that's been there that was up well prior to December when the initial specific site-specific amendment was submitted. That sign that was up prior to all of this lengthy file. So he's turning it on its side. If he's truly trying to stay within the current bylaw, I would suggest that instead of propping it at 28% above the current bylaw or 18 inches, almost 2 feet higher than what is within the bylaw, why not just put it where it's going to fall within the bylaw, 18 inches lower? And the lighted part, still deeply concerned because we're all hearing from residents, right? We're all getting our telephones and our emails and our social media are lighting up because the residents want to be heard and they're fearful that we're not listening to them, even though they've made every effort to have their opinions heard. So they're concerned about the lighted. So am I, because my understanding now with this, with Mr. Gyortsky trying to, the applicant saying that he's trying to stay within our bylaw, well then why not that lighted, the illuminated, the media sign off? So for now, he says it will remain static and it won't be scrolling and it won't use the excessive looms that it has. But we don't know that that will always be the case. I understand that the applicant is saying that now, but I also understand that multiple times the applicant has stated in emails and in front of us in the council chambers in January that he had no idea he needed to, that he needed that permit, which again challenged multiple times what our staff was saying that he did know. So I'm just a little bit concerned that, you know, for now, he'll use this giant light lit up with the ability to light up, but for now he won't light it up. I don't know that that will be the case in a month from now. And I think there's an opportunity for everyone to win here. So the residents are begging us not to support this, to deny this amendment. So, and Mr. Gyortsky's asking us to work with him so that he doesn't incur extra costs. If he just brings the current sign he has down a little lower, it's not going to be extra cost. And if he doesn't add that big lighted piece, no extra cost there. So it seems like by denying the amendment, everybody's, you know, going to end up happy.
Good. Good. I'm sorry, Council. We got to move on this folder. We've been dealing with this long enough. And I'll be honest with you, I support it. He's made some big changes to this sign. No scrolling light. I don't, Lori, real quickly, just one thing, Lori. How much higher is he than the recommended?
In height from the ground to the top of the church is 39 centimeters higher.
Okay, so it's not that much. So I don't know what council wants to do here, but I'm supporting it because he has worked with us. But before we go there, I'm going to have a motion to accept the public presentations first. Councillor Van Dolen and Deputy Mayor Malash. All in favor of the public presentations? Okay, and I'm going to open up to council. Like we gotta make a decision tonight. We're going to make a decision on this, and I'll be upfront. I support it. So I'm going to leave it up to council. Councillor Van Dolen, go ahead. You're going to make a motion.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Pardon me.
Go ahead.
Pardon me. I missed that. I was trying to speak.
No, you're going to make a motion?
Yes. No, I wanted to address the issue. Several other members of council have had their turns, and I wanted to have mine. You keep saying we have to get through this, but I think we need to take turns to state our positions and say what we think about it.
Okay,
Is that not true?
Go ahead.
Well, you know, we've talked about this so long and so many times. We all know where each other stand. But to me, what's new here tonight is the fact that that Mr. Gorski has significantly conceded a lot of what he set out to get. And full disclosure, Bertie and I have been friends for 15 years. I was a friend of one of his brothers for 35 years. When I moved out here a couple of decades ago, Bernie and I became friends. But that's beside the point. He wanted a great big tall lit sign with dancing wine bottles on it. That's what he set out to get. We have cut his sign down by about 60%, and there's no dancing anything, and it can't light up, and it can light up, but it can't flash, and it can't change. Those are significant concessions. The other side doesn't seem to have conceded anything. And if there's one thing that I've learned here in the last couple of years, courtesy of people like Councillor Bowman and Deputy Mayor Malash, is that the compromise is really the heart of what we do here. And you have to meet somewhere in the middle and move on. And I think Mr. Gorski has conceded quite a bit. And I think it's time for some of the neighbors to say, well, yes, this man is allowed to have a sign. I mean, if we go any further than that, it seems to be becoming some sort of vindictive personal vendetta, which is not what we should be looking at. As one of the presenters warned us, we do not want to be seen to be impartial in our decision making. And if we're siding with somebody with a personal animosity to somebody across the street, apparently over their wealth, well, then we would not be impartial. We'd be opening ourselves up to some appeals at court levels. So, you know, as I said way back in January, I think our sign bylaw is too restrictive. People can't do business properly. I think we went a little bit too far in trying to preserve this this rural character. We need to allow people to have electric signs. And Councillor Guerin, under your definition, if I put up a stained glass window and held up a candle behind it, you'd call that an electronic sign. Well, that doesn't make any sense. We have to allow people to have lit signs. We just don't want the dancing, flashing stuff like on Highway 3 that's up there in Tecumseh. And I do want to remind council, obviously I'm going to vote in favor of this. I think Mr. Gorski is compromised enough, and it's time for the other side to do the same. I remind council that in other portions of our agenda tonight, we're going to be discussing spending something on the order of $250,000 over the next couple of years, buying new signs for businesses in our town centers. That's the CIP plan. What would taxpayers think if they knew that part of this argument is, well, we're preventing this guy from having an electric sign, but we're going to tax you and use the money so that people in Essex Town and Harrow Center can put new signs on their businesses. I mean, talk about cognitive dissonance. I think we need to get our act together here and decide whether we're on the side of business and we're on the side of agritourism or not. And that's another report that's coming to us tonight from Mr. Salviera Nelson about spending $100,000 or more to boost our agribusiness sector, because it's so crucial to he says, to our culture and our heritage and our economy. Yes. So let's not go in two directions by spending money to promote agribusiness and agritourism at one end of town and then trying to squash it and prevent it from doing anything at the other end of town. That's not only nuts, it's unproductive and it's a waste of money. I'm glad people are starting to think about wasting money. and we shouldn't do it. We should approve this this minor variance. That's what it is. It's a minor variance. Thank you.
Thank you. I think everybody spoke on council on this. Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Everybody spoke maybe to the delegations, but not right now. I really see this as a bigger than just one file. This is bigger than just Crew Winery, bigger than Mr. Gorski. This is about our bylaws, and this is about our ethics and our ability to enforce bylaws. Yes, our council is doing great things, but there's still a question about ethics in our community. Not every municipal decision should be a compromise. We can't take every one of our bylaws and say we have to compromise them. That's not how our bylaws work. We have worked really hard with Gorski. Our town staff have spent hours trying to accommodate him. In fact, if you go through our email chains, our clerk even reached out to Mr. Gorski to ensure he was a delegation tonight. That's a real olive branch. Look back to the emails when we were notified that Mr. Gorski was on the agenda. He didn't get on the agenda himself. There was an email with Mr. Auger inviting Mr. Gorski. So that is rolling out a red carpet. I do believe we've also given $23,000 of a grant money to Crew Winery for their business. So we cannot say that we haven't supported businesses. We've supported our businesses. We have the CIP on County Road 50. Our economic development officer has spent a lot of time on County Road 50. We have done a really good job marketing our wineries. We give money to explore the shore. We have done a lot of things. We did a complete and thorough review of our sign bylaw when it comes to agricultural lands. That is a lot of time and a lot of energy from this council and this administration for basically one business. There has not been another business that has come to us asking for this. But now, if we open the floodgates, that's my worry. It is about ethics and it is about integrity tonight. And I believe we have to listen to the people. We had a high uptake on the County Road 50 survey. If we do not listen to the 72% for pole signs and the 77%, good luck getting people to want to engage in our council again. We are trying really hard to engage our residents, but when we do, we have to listen to them and not dismiss what they're saying. So I firmly believe our residents have spoken, and I firmly believe we spent enough time on this and we have to work on other priorities. Thank you.
All right. I had a motion and a seconder for the presentations. So let's do that first. All in favor of the present? Oh, we carried that already. Okay. So it's going to be up to council.
I move accept.
Okay,
I move acceptance of the suggested variance.
Okay, need a seconder there then? Seconder? Deputy Mayor Malage seconded.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a comment on it.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
So there's several issues here, and I think that first of all, we talked a little bit about the bylaw being reviewed, and I explained this to a couple of residents that asked me why we would do that. And one of the reasons why I thought it would make sense to review that bylaw at that time was, while we had a resident already, a business that was looking to put up something that was quite different than what's allowed. I know that we have our CIP program aimed at County Road 50, and that's just something new that's coming up. So in my mind, we had this bylaw has been in place for about 5 years, this new sign bylaw, and maybe it was time to look at it before we had a CIP program where maybe we'd have 5 or 6 businesses that decided that they wanted to have an illuminated rolling message sign somewhere on County Road 50, because there are some new businesses that will be developing over the next few years. Hopefully we have many new businesses that are developing on County Road 50 over the next few years. And in my opinion, it was worth the effort to go through that task to see whether there's been a change of heart as far as what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, what people want, what people don't want. So this was a good lesson to find out now before we start our CIP program in depth on that particular stretch of road. What I didn't understand when we did the survey, though, was that this actual bylaw is not just curtailed to County Road 50. This actual bylaw is more than County Road 50. The survey probably should have included more than people just on County Road 50. That's one thing. Secondly, it's the definition of what a electronic media sign, the definition of. When I first heard the issues brought forth on this particular sign, I had heard loud and clear that this thing is flashy. It's on for multiple hours. It's not in context with the nature of the community, the quaint country atmosphere. It's more like a Vegas sign. Well, in my mind, this is what's being proposed is far from the Vegas style sign that we originally started with. The compromise that Mr. Gorski and Crew Winery has made on this sign. And again, I want to reassure everybody that I have no connections to Mr. Gorski. I'm just looking at this as a business within our community. I have no connections with him. I don't care how much money he has or doesn't have. I'm looking at this as what's reasonable to a business within our community. And I believe that the electronic media sign is what our administration is trying to explain. There are lots of businesses out there that are in our community that are in the agri zones that have open signs that may be attached to something that's not on their storefront window, for instance, with Viewpoint. And if we don't allow something that says they can have an illuminated sign of some type, we don't want something that's flashy, that's Vegas style. We want something that fits into the appropriateness of the quiet countryside atmosphere. We allow to have open signs or hour signs on a window. It's not a big step to say you can have that advertised on your sign. And it makes sense to have it on something that's changeable because sometimes hours change depending on the time of the year. It also gives them an opportunity to say season's greetings, happy Valentine's Day, something catchy to be able to attract more customers without having to change a billboard sign or a letter sign. It's one set of advancement. And so I understand why our administration is saying that kind of a sign that's not flashy, that's not animated, that's not in your face, trying to grab your attention. A sign that states your hours, basically, if it's lit, it's only good for those people. It's not going to try and track the normal driver that's driving down the road. It's trying to let people know as they pull into the driveway or as they're pulling into the driveway or at the side of the road, what hours this business is open. And if it's lit like that, it's easier for the person driving by to see what hours they're open. I don't see an issue with the sign the way it's being addressed. If we change the bylaw, if we tell Mr. Gorski that he cannot put this sign up, then we have to go through the whole community and anywhere in an agri zone that has a sign, for instance, like Viewpoint, that has an open sign on their entrance gate, because this is not just pertaining to County Road 50, this is anything that's agri zone. We have to tell all of those other individuals that they have to take their illuminated sign down as well. And I'm not in agreement with that. I think what's being proposed here is significantly different than what we had originally. It's far from it. And I have no issues with a sign being permitted that states their hours, a simple greeting, as long as it's not rotating through the day If it starts out at the beginning of the day with that message and stays on for the day, I have no issue with them trying to advertise with a lighted sign. It's not something flashy. It's only going to be on certain hours of the day. And to alleviate any concerns that maybe Mr. Gorski or Crew Winery, whoever owns it at some point in time, is trying to get away with having an electric media sign that sends out messages and gets flashy like a Vegas sign. I'm going to ask that it be somehow entered into the building permit, or I mean, it's in our bylaw. It wouldn't be permitted. He'd be charged if he went ahead like that and used it for something that he wasn't supposed to. So I don't even know if we need to put it in, but I'm going to later ask the question. But I'm in favor of this, and I think he's made an outstanding change to what he had originally to try and fit it within the context of our bylaw. I just want to talk briefly on bylaws, though. Bylaws are just a general guideline of where we want to sit with a particular function. And I'll tell you right now, there's so many. We even have a committee set up called the Committee of Adjustment that looks at hundreds of times a year, where the bylaw that we set up for property standards is challenged by residents, and we actually let them have a minor variance. This is no different than what Mr. Gorski's asking. This is a minor variance to a bylaw that we set. Gives a general idea of where we want our signs to be. It's not an issue for somebody to challenge that. It's the same with our noise bylaw. Our noise bylaw says no noise after a certain time at night. But we have residents that come continuously to ask us if they can extend because they're having a party, they're having a wedding reception in their backyard. The Harrow Fair is going on. The Essex Fun Fest is going on. All of those events come to us and ask us, can we be an exception to the bylaw that you've presented? And we do it. And the Committee of Adjustment, I mean, there's tons of times where the bylaws are challenged and we make an exception to a minor variance. I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We had a motion, Councillor Vanendel, you made a motion to. Did you make the motion? Or go ahead and state your motion. To accept. Pardon?
Yes, I move that that the minor variance requested by Crew Wineries be approved, and that the slight bump over be allowed, and the slight coverage area be allowed. It was a minor percentage.
Okay, thank you. And the seconder was Deputy Mayor Malash, seconded. All in favor of that motion? There's 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to vote in favor of it. So there's 4 opposed. Opposed, please. 1, 2, 3, motion passes. Thank you. Laurie, did you want to speak again?
Yes, and if I'm out of process, please stop me. The question I have is pertaining to the lighted sign, and I'm hearing Deputy Mayor Malash, although it may not have been a part of the motion that Councillor Vanderdolen set forward, the verbiage on the sign to either remain static or to be permitted to use words to change. That's important for administration so as to enforce or to keep the enforcement very clear. We recommend or could recommend a site-specific bylaw, and then it would be brought forward to council next meeting for first, second, and third reading. And then therefore, it would be very easy for us to enforce if it's spelled out exactly, words and allows us to say, you're not in compliance. So just some clarity if we could on the lighted sign component.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Vanendel, if you want to clarify that, please.
I'm suggesting that, that the sign not change more often than every 15 minutes because we don't want the thing flashing. I think that's pretty clear that people really, that bother them flashing. So if you could change it 4 times an hour, as Ms. Chadwick said half an hour ago, we want to prevent nuisance signs. And I think that this would prevent nuisance. And I think it would be easily measured and easily enforced. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, Lori? Is that okay? Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Malash, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm not
Deputy.
necessarily in agreement with that. I think that's more often than what needs to be changed. Static sign to me is you set that sign up for the day, and that's the sign that you go with for that day. I mean, if it's Valentine's Day and you want to change the message to read Happy Valentine's Day that day and the hours, I'm fine with that. But to set it up every 15 minutes or even every hour or something like that, that's not what I don't think the intent of this. I wouldn't be in favor of that. So if that's what we're voting on, I'm not in favor.
So you're saying, Deputy Mayor Malash, can be changed like on a daily basis, right?
I would say daily at the most, yes.
I agree with that too, on a daily basis. I agree 100%. Councillor Van Dolen, you okay with that? On a daily basis, I don't think Bernard's going to come out and change that sign.
Yes.
2 or 3 times a day.
No, it's a compromise. It's probably not what he wants, but it should be enough.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Hold on. Chris, you had something? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, just on topic, I just wanted to comment on a few things, if I can, Your Worship, if that's allowable.
Go ahead.
It was commented that we're rolling out the red carpet for one individual and that we're doing something different than we would do for any citizen. And that's not the case. And I just want to reiterate that customer service is high on council's level in terms of their strategic plan. Council or customer service is very high on my schedule and what I see for this town. So emailing residents when we've heard that they're delegations to confirm if they're going to be a delegation is not the same as not knowing anything and reaching out to somebody and saying, are you going to be a delegate? So this is the level of service we try to provide all our citizens. We're trying to be better in terms of engagement. The red carpet is not being rolled out unless you want to say it's being rolled out for everybody, I guess. I just want to stress that point. There's no special treatment here. Again, this is the cost of doing business, and we try and treat all the residents the same and perform that level of service equally.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next on the agenda is 8.1, being the Chief Administrative Officer verbal report on COVID-19. We also have a report from our Deputy Chief Administrative Officer, Doug Sweet.
Chris, you can go first, I guess, for
sure.
COVID. Go ahead.
Okay, through your worship, thank you very much. So not much, I guess, a little bit going on, not much going on. Our day camps are done. We had a successful summer of day camps. I think that was a fantastic level of service we provided our residents. The beach and the splash pads are opening. Our monitoring continues. We'll look to end the monitoring in September, similarly as the health unit used to do it as well, middle of September. Big night tonight, the Hare Arena opens tonight. I think that's fantastic. I think the staff here have done a great job working through the protocols, the videos, the information that we're trying to push out there for our residents and our user groups. So I look forward to that, getting used and seeing it being used. Community center and the programming, we're looking to begin next week. So another big step here, kind of getting back to that normal business. And then also, I know I noted in the last meeting, I would hopefully have a report together on live, at least with council meetings. We're working through some technical issues in terms of making sure that that's seamless for any users, for any delegates, for council and staff. We're very close to achieving that, and I hope to come back at the next meeting with a report again, and then council can decide on what that looks like for this town and for them. So that's it for me tonight on the update. your worship.
Thank you, Chris. And we'll go right to Doug. Doug Sweet. Go ahead, Doug.
Hey, Mr. Mayor. The CEO and myself did meet earlier. So the update in terms of especially community services, Chris has provided that. So I have nothing additional to add.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Doug. So I need a motion to accept the report from Doug and Chris, Councillor Guerin and Councillor Bowman. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 8.2 on the agenda was removed by council during adoption of published agenda as the matter was already dealt with. 8.3 is economic development report 2020-12, community improvement plan 2020 budget update for receipt, and that council look for council to approve the transfer of $66,000, 107 and 46 from the Harrow and Colchester CIP reserves to the current budget year.
Have a mover, please, on this one. Deputy Mayor Malash and seconder. Need a second, Councillor Bowman. Any questions on this one? Do you have a question, Councillor Vanendol? Did you have a question? No? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
8.4 on this evening's agenda is economic development 2020-13 COVID-19 business grant funding update for receipt, and that council approves extending the deadline of the business relaunch grant until October 2nd, 2020 for all businesses assessed in the commercial class.
Have a mover, Councillor Verbeek moves it. Seconder. Councillor Guerin, any questions on this one? All in favor? Carried.
.5 economic development 2020-14 agritourism strategy for receipt, and that council supports the town of Essex making an application for a matching grant in the amount of $25,000 to the Tourism Economic Development and Recovery Fund through the Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Culture Industries. And finally, that council approves reallocating up to $25,000 in funding from the 2020 tourism marketing budget in order to create an agritourism strategy in 2021.
Mover, please. Need a mover on this one, Councillor Bowman and Councillor Vanendol. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
8.6 economic development 2020-15 wayfinding signage implementation for receipt this evening, and that council provide direction on the use of the word center on proposed signage as it relates to Essex, Harrow, Colchester, and McGregor urban centers.
Need a mover on this and then need some direction too. So a mover, Councillor Verbeek, seconder, Councillor Vanendol. And what is council? They want to provide direction for the use of the word center. So Deputy Mayor Malash, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know I was on council when we first developed that terminology. Even at that time, I questioned whether we needed it for centers outside of Essex itself. The old Essex, town of Essex, that was the original prior to all the amalgamations. It was important for Essex to be called Essex Center because there was so much confusion about when someone was talking about Essex, were we talking about just Ward 1 or were we talking about all 4 wards? And at that time, council debated it back and forth, and a majority of council felt we should add center to the end of each of the 4 wards names. So, or 4 urban centers, I should say. So Colchester Center, McGregor Center, Harrow Center, Essex Center. I personally believe if we left the center word attached to Essex only, I'd be happy with that. But again, I'm negotiable on it. It really doesn't matter. When I'm in Harrow, I don't hear people calling themselves Harrow Center. When I'm in Essex, I do hear people saying Essex Center. When I'm outside of Harrow, I don't hear people saying Harrow Center. When I'm outside of Essex, I do hear people saying Essex Center, because it does represent the old town of Essex, Ward 1. So that's my take on it. Thank you.
Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure if we need to make a motion, but as the ward rep in Harrow and with absence of a ward rep in Colchester, I think that Harrow we're running one short. I think that Harrow and Colchester would be best just being called Harrow and Colchester. That's my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Van Dolen, you had a comment. Go ahead. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I first heard of this a couple of years ago from Councillor Bondi, who was really upset about this word center, and I didn't understand it and I didn't agree with it. But after thinking about it for these last couple of years, there might be a fairly simple way to get around the few people who the problem that this causes for some people. I've decided she's right in that it is kind of clunky. At least this doesn't offend any sense of my history, but it's clunky, and I don't think it works as smoothly as it should. And I think maybe Deputy Mayor Malash has the germ of the idea. Just call Essex Center a center, because McGregor and Harrow and Oxley and Colchester will never stop being those places. The government doesn't matter. Harrow is still Harrow. Colchester is still Colchester. And we just take the center off and replace it with just our little logo that just says like small town of Essex. So when you're driving around, you see Colchester, town of Essex, Harrow, town of Essex, Essex Center, town of Essex. So that if you're not from around here, or if you're a little bit foggy on the idea of political boundaries, you'll eventually figure out that all these places are part of the town of Essex, which we do need to establish. But the hated word center would be off everything except Essex. I mean, I think we still have to have it on Essex because, I mean, there's New York, but we're Essex. So we have to separate it from the county and the larger municipality.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else? So, Deputy Mayor Malash, I think we probably would need a motion from you to just keep the center in Essex. Go ahead if you want to make that motion.
Mr. Mayor, that the word center is only attached to Ward 1, Essex Center. The other three urban centers are just known as their original names: Harrow, Colchester, and McGregor.
Good. I need a seconder for that, Councillor Verbeek. Any other questions on it? Councillor Bowman, go ahead. Yeah, you had a question? Go ahead.
Thank you. I think it's appropriate that Essex stay Essex Center. It's really the only way we have of defining it from either the county or the whole town. So I think it's appropriate, and you're right. People call it Harrow is Harrow, Colchester is Colchester. You rarely put the center with it. So I think it makes sense, makes it easier, and I'd say move forward with it. Thank you.
Councillor Verbeek.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a comment and probably a repeated question that I believe was asked in the past, but I just want to say I just love these signs and I look forward to it. There's going to be a lot of them. I look forward to them coming up. And I think they'll be, a great addition to the community. However, we're focusing on, supporting our local businesses whenever and if ever possible. And so I think this was asked, but I really don't know the answer. Is this one of our local sign companies that's going to be making these? Because this is going to be a pretty significant job, right? So will it be going to someone within Essex municipality? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Lori, did you have? Go ahead, Lori. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I was going to pass the question to our Director of Infrastructure Services to help answer, but it looks like Mr. Nepsey has his hand up.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, it'll be procured, it'll be tendered and procured. So we can't set that a local business is awarded those, but it'll be out there on the, you know, for the ability to be able to be bid on.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, so we had a motion, we had a seconder. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
Eight point seven, Finance and Business Services, 2020-01, COVID-19 financial impact as of July 31st, 2020. That said report be received for council and public information purposes.
Mover, please. Need a mover. Councillor Vandendoel and Councillor Verbeek. All in favor? Carried, thank you.
Eight point eight, Legal and Legislative Services, 2020-014, Town of Essex Election Complaints Policy for receipt, and that the Town of Essex Election Complaints Policy attached therein to this report as Schedule A be adopted as presented.
Mover on that report, please. Councillor Bowman and Councillor Vandendoel. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Going to do all the correspondence, unless they want to speak to them.
Item 10 on the agenda, Mr. Mayor, any updates from County Council?
I was on vacation, so anything, Deputy Mayor?
Just to let all of council know, we did have our first viewing of the county road rationalization report that was requested. Oh, I'm going to say it started about 4 years ago with the town of LaSalle. Mayor Ken requested that about 4 years ago, and Mayor Bondi's continuing on with that now to being the driving force behind it. But they decided to, there were some items that had been requested from LaSalle to be put on the report that did not make it onto the reports. So they asked for to have it moved to the next meeting. So we're going to be looking at that again. If anyone's interested in looking for the town of Essex, it probably means that County Road 50, what's being proposed, would be west of Erie. County Road 13 would all become the town of Essex's, would become a municipal road, and County Road 41 would become a municipal road as well. That's the most current recommendation from County Council at this point in time. Still to be debated, obviously. And I think Mayor and I are both going to argue that the road structure around the county, because of tourism, County Road 50 should remain as a county road in its entirety. So we're going to argue that. We should probably, Mr. Mayor, talk a little bit about that before our next meeting, and I'm sure we will. But and with our administration, have a strategy going into it to help us out. But I truly believe, and that was even before I seen this information, that the entire route around the county on its water's edge, whatever highways there, should continue to be county roads, and to help ensure that the proper maintenance is given to the outside edge of the county, and any tourism issues with cycling and so on can be upheld through the county road system.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. If I can just say, add to that, you and I spoke, Deputy Mayor, on this. Just to assure council, if it does get downloaded to us as our municipality, we're going to fight and make sure that the roads are, like, you take County Road 50 from Colchester West, it's a mess. The road is checkered, the road is done. It should have, to me, it should have been done this year, repaved, but it's not going to be done. So I think the Deputy Mayor and myself, if it gets downloaded, we will fight to make sure that that road is upgraded before it's handed over to us. So just let council know that. And Deputy Mayor and I, we've been speaking quite a bit on that. So thank you, Deputy Mayor, for that report. Councillor Vanendel. Oh, hold on, just.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to hear that that the mayor and the deputy mayor are fighting this, because I think it would be a major loss for the town if that huge responsibility was downloaded onto our taxpayers' backs to pay for it. I wonder if we could have some sort of back of the envelope estimate about how much it's going to cost to rebuild that stretch. I'd like to know how many kilometers it is. I'd like to know if snow removal would be affected, because there's like 94 lanes and beach roads and along that stretch. And if we don't have county level snow removal, that could pose some serious problems for a couple of months of the year. And what happens with the responsibility over the bike lanes? Are they just going to leave that part of the plan out? I'd like to hear more about this, but I'm very glad you're fighting it. And I think we need to get the public involved. This is the kind of thing that I think only public pressure will change, or certainly help prevent.
Well, I can assure you, Councillor, that Deputy Mayor and myself will fight very, very, very hard for this. It doesn't make sense to turn this over to the municipality at all. Chris, you had something, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, through your worship, thank you. Just to kind of, I guess, piggyback on Deputy Mayor Malash, I think you did a great job summarizing in terms of, it's been around for 4 years, and for 4 years, it's even noted in the report that, you know, we've been stating that we don't feel County Road 50 should be downloaded. So it's well known to the county and to the consultant. I'm glad to hear, you know, we'll continue to carry that torch for the town that way. With respect to the next phase is really, that's where you get into monies, right? So right now they're trying to determine the road network, what that means, how that works within each municipality, how do connecting links work, which seem to be a bigger issue right now than really the uploading and downloading of most of the roads. Connecting links, you get into the issues of planning within those connecting links, is what you're seeing in other municipalities of who has control in the connecting link. Is it owned by the town and controlled by the town? Can they put, you know, 6 driveways back to back to back? Or does the county have say because it's a connecting link on the county road? So the connecting link issue is almost as big as the uploading and downloading of roads. Yeah, I can't even imagine if we get to the point where we agree on the road network as a county, the next step of figuring out how those costs work, if it's downloaded, if things are repaired, if the everything. I mean, it's just going to be a whole can of worms that really is going to take probably just as much time as we took to get to this point. So lots more to come. I think the report's worth reading. If you have any questions on that report, as always, Kevin is versed on it. I'm versed on it as well. So either one of us can help you answer any questions, or if you have any concerns, because there's quite a bit of info in there, and there's a lot of history in terms of old master plans, new plans, scoring matrices, whatnot. So by all means, please, I guess, give us a call and we can help walk you through that. But
good. Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there anything worthwhile having a statement from this council of an opinion to bring forward? Just through you, like something that, you know, gives our position, or like, I just think it's a good idea, right? Like, we, the council, the town of Essex, do not want this road downloaded.
Councillor Bondi, I think the county is well aware of that. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Yeah, just to add to that, Mr. Mayor, whenever the Mayor Snively or myself speak on behalf of the town of Essex, it's typically that the council supports us on whatever, and we'll even say that sometimes when we're speaking. Our council is 100% in favor of, or 100% supports what we're about to say. And in most instances, it's understood that whatever we're speaking is something that council wants us to pursue. But once in a while, we will say it. I don't think there's really any need to have a letter or anything like that. It's usually understood that council supports whatever the ideas that the mayor and the deputy mayor are bringing forward.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
We'll, sorry, just one other point.
Sure.
So we will make sure though that we say we have 100% support from our administration and from our fellow town council members on this issue. That we fully believe that County Road 50 needs to remain as part of the county roads network.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to, just for further clarification, I appreciate having the discussion at council before you go forward and say our council supports, because there may be issues that yourself and our mayor are voting for that we have no knowledge of. So I think that we need to be cautious and only go to the county and say our council has full support when our council has had that conversation. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
If I can just add one thing, it doesn't even make sense for them to turn this over to the municipality, because if you look at County Road 50, County Road 50 is a connecting road, basically right from Leamington right on through Kingsville and right through Cedar Beach and Linden Beach, all the way through Colchester. It goes all the way through Malden, Amherstburg, all the way up, connects all. So it doesn't make sense for them to turn that road over, and I don't think it will happen, to be honest with you. Anybody else? Thank you.
Item 11.1, Mr. Mayor, is correspondence to be received, that all of the correspondence listed in 11.1 be received, and we're indicated to further share such information with the community.
Need a mover for the correspondence, please? Councillor Bowman and Councillor Guerin. Any questions on any of it? Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to clarify on a response to the health unit. They did get back to us. It was almost 2 months later, but they did get back to us. Our council never asked for anything, any private information. We asked for more stats, but we didn't ask for any private information. That being said, the kids, the children go back to school now, and the age group that they still have is 18 or 19 and younger. That still, as a mom in a community, that still causes concern, because 19 and under can mean daycare, can mean grade school, and can mean high school, and they're very different. So I would still like to see more of a breakdown of ages in our community. I don't know when your next health board meeting is, Mr. Mayor, but I don't know if you could ask that question or if council can discuss that at all. Thank you.
Okay, I will ask the health unit if they can give me that information, Councillor. So you want a breakdown of ages? Okay, thank you. I need Deputy Mayor Malash.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I have a question on that. I'm just wondering if Councillor Bondi would like to have more categorized, because they may tell us that that's too much information. They just don't have the time to do it. I wonder if we could get classifications like under 4, under 12, and then I guess under 19 you could consider high school anyway. But that way we'd at least know which ones are daycare, which ones are grade school, and which ones are high school. Is probably what we're knowing. Okay.
Yeah.
That
okay.
might help you, Mr. Mayor, battling with them to try and get the numbers.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I will. Okay. Need a motion to accept? Oh, there is a motion. All in favor of the carried. Thank you.
11.2.1 on the agenda, that the correspondence dated August 28th, 2020 from City of Windsor Council advising of their resolution that supports a healthy professional news media and which urges the federal government to pass legislation to ensure an ecosystem for a healthy news media to serve all Canadians, be received and supported, and if council decides to support, that the appropriate letter of support be sent.
Mover, please. Deputy Mayor Malash. And
move and receive support.
Okay, thank you. Seconder is Councillor Verbeek. Any questions? All in favor? Carried.
I have a question.
Who had a question?
Wait, I have a question, or I had a statement anyway.
Go ahead.
Me. Chris Vanderdoel.
You got to get your hand up quicker.
This is my former business. It was
ahead.
up. It was up.
Oh, I wasn't up. I
Review
was
the tapes. As a former member of the media, I have to express my my disappointment in the lateness and the lameness of this support, which comes about 10 years too late and is going to be completely ineffectual. It's a complete waste of time, and it doesn't even get at the real issues of what's wrong with the media. And in fact, this is going to do media more harm than good, because what this means is that all levels of government will now feel an obligation. In fact, we're seeing it on this council, to start throwing money at local media, which means you're buying them off, which means the media aren't independent anymore, which means they can't be trustworthy, and they're going to be even less likely to survive into the future. This is really misguided. It's not going to work. One of the main problems with the dying local media in Canada is the fact that CBC, the largest news organization in the country, is subsidized to the tune of more than $2 billion a year, which is sucked out of all the rest of the media. Imagine how much local media could thrive if CBC didn't get over $1 billion in cash and didn't suck more than $1 billion worth of advertising out of the advertising markets. Does that mean we're against, were we in favor of defunding the CBC and clawing that money back so that local media can have it? That would work. What we're suggesting tonight is not going to work. So I just think it's useless, and taxpayers should hear somebody say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Go ahead.
11.2.2, that the correspondence from the Essex BIA dated August 24th, advising of a resignation from the Essex BIA Board of Management, be received with regret, and that a letter be sent to Ms. Sempinger, thanking her for her time spent on the board with bylaw and that bylaw as well, bylaw 1777, be updated accordingly.
Thank you. I can just say one thing, that Liz did a lot when she was on there, and pretty sad to see her go. I don't know the reasons why she went, but she did a lot. So anyways, I need a mover on this one here, please. Councillor Bowman and Councillor Guerin. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
11.2.3, that the correspondence from Taylor Gord, chairperson of Project Hope, Windsor, Essex, dated August 27th, asking that Essex Council consider partnering with their not-for-profit organization in supporting a community pantry in Harrow, be received, and if council so chooses to support their pilot project, that administration be directed to work with Project Hope in finding a suitable location for a community pantry in Harrow.
Mover, please. Need a mover first. Mover, Councillor Bowman and Councillor Bondi. All in favor? And Doug wants to speak on it first.
Thank you.
Mayor, questions too before you ask?
Yes. Yeah.
Favor.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to update council. Part of the request was to find a location. We have met with Ms. Gorick. This is a pilot project, Project Hope, and they're looking at doing, it's a 12 by 8, so 96 square feet. Location in front of the Harrow Arena. They have submitted engineered drawings, which our chief building official has reviewed and has approved. We met with planning, doesn't contravene any of the Planning Act. And if so, if council does move forward with this, at the next meeting, we'd come back with the bylaw as a lease on the conditions and responsibilities by both parties.
Thank you, Doug. Deputy Mayor Malash, go ahead.
So I just, the question's directed to Mr. Sweet. I just want to be sure of where this is being located. Is it in a separate building that they're building, or is it within this town of Essex's arena space?
Here, Mr. Mayor. No, it is a totally separate building. The main entrance, it's just south of the main entrance to the Harrow Arena. There's a spot between the building and parking blocks that fits right in there, so it is movable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Verbeek.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. Now, I'm in no way I'm not suggesting for a minute that I'm opposed to this, but I just, when I saw it, I thought like, okay, so wouldn't our money, wouldn't we be better served to assist the operations that are already doing this service within our community? Because we know we do have St. Vincent de Paul's and food banks and groups that are doing this service within our community. So I'm just wondering, wouldn't we get a better bang for our buck? You know, provide, if we're ready to put out some coin to put it out to, you know, the groups that are already existing and doing this service. It's just a thought, I'm wondering.
What the thing about it is, Counselor, that we're not putting any money out there. They're the ones that's putting up the money. So
Are they asking for our
they're asking for a spot to put it. Okay,
Right.
but I don't think there's funds involved here. Is there, Doug, of ours?
No, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. They're asking for no financial resources. They're just looking for a place, property on municipal lands to put this facility.
Okay.
So they're not asking for any funding at all, Counselor, so it's not going to cost the taxpayers a dime. So it's something they're doing on their own.
And just to add, Mr. Mayor, any cost for electrical, they would cover those costs as well.
Okay, Counselor Bondi, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that this is going to be an awesome addition to food insecurities in the region. So even if they needed money, I'd be back knocking on council's door because so what is going on is the Harrow Food Bank is fantastic, but you can only access it when they're open and when they have people. And there's stigma. No matter how much we think that there's not stigma against using food bank, there's people don't want to admit that they need food. So this is a whole entirely different model. It'll have cameras, it'll have a fridge. So it's anybody, it's a mom if she's, or a dad, if they've run out of milk or bread, they can go there, you know. And the other night, in the middle of the night, people were messaging, what time does Tim Hortons open? Because I need milk for my baby, right? So it's reducing the stigma. It's filling a gap in our community. Recently, after the Miracle Drive, and now that people's water wells are running dry, we have had issues of food security in Harrow. We haven't been able to pull off another food drive recently, but I do have people in Harrow that are driving up to the Unemployed Help Center, grabbing boxes of food and bringing them back to Harrow. So hopefully this will take care of our residents in a different way, reduce the stigma, and provides another food option for them. So I do have money in my contingency fund if they need it. If they don't, they don't. But this is something that we should easily get behind, and I look forward to it. I think it's an amazing initiative that this team is doing. So we need to give them all the support we can in accolades. Thank you.
Thank you. Need a motion for, did we vote on this? Oh, yeah, we had a mover and second. All in favor, this one? Carried, thank you.
Item 12.1, that the minutes of the Arts, Culture, and Tourism Committee meeting of August 12th be received and adopted as circulated.
Mover, please. Councillor Bowman and Councillor Garin. All in favor? It's carried, thank you.
Item 13.1, that the bank payments report of July 2020 be ratified as submitted.
Mover, please, on the bank. Councillor Garin and Councillor Vanderdoom. All in favor? Carried, thank you.
Item 15.1 this evening. The following notices of motion were first presented at the August 24th regular council meeting and are now being brought forward this evening for council's consideration. 15.1.1, as moved by Councillor Bondi, that Town of Essex Council directs administration to send out notices of drain maintenance works in December and January, if possible, before planting season, to minimize the impact to our farming community during planting and harvesting season. As moved by Councillor Bondi, would require a second.
Need a seconder for the motion? Seconder, Councillor Verbeek. Go ahead, Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's pretty self-explanatory, similar to that issue that our deputy mayor raised in terms of public service. You know, it's just backing up the cycle to match as much as we can possibly do with our farmers and their farming cycle. I know that we've had some new positions this year, so that's probably put a little snag in it, but just in the future, if we could try to plan a little bit more ahead. I did have 2 farmers reach out to me this year saying that they planted and then there was maintenance going on and destroying some of their crops that they planted, and they wouldn't have planted there if they knew and taking care of that portion of the field that whole time. So just seeing if we could do it. It's just like a in-house policy, I would guess. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Verbeek, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too had farmers reach out about, you know, some maintenance being done after their fields were in. And so I was able to speak to our new drainage superintendent, Lindsay, who did assure me that this is already in the works, Councillor Bondi, that this is the intent moving forward. And I was very pleased to hear that, because this was new to me. I didn't know until I heard from a farmer who was having damage done to his crop that this was actually, you know, something, it was a thing and it was happening. So I was assured that moving forward, they will be trying to, you know, get that done earlier.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Malash, go ahead.
Just quickly, I'm going to reiterate what Councillor Verbeek said. I had a few farmers reach out. I've talked with our drainage supervisor as well, and she has assured me that you know, they'll work more diligently towards that goal. But there were some extenuating circumstances this past year that caused that to happen. There's only a small window of opportunity to clean a lot of ditches out. In our department was trying to do their best. We had an excessive number of drains that were cleaned this year. It was kind of hard to get everything done within that span of time. But again, as Ms. Verbeek and Ms. Bondi have said, they let Ms. Dean know that this is something that we've got to look at, because farmers are concerned that they wouldn't plant crops if they knew that they were drained so close to the drain. If they knew, then they wouldn't have those cost inputs, and then no revenue from the cost inputs that they had. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Is there anybody from administration like to speak on this? Kevin, did you want to speak on this?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Deputy Mayor Malash did kind of pull the words right out of my mouth. You know, we are always constantly working towards additional goals, especially when it comes to notifying residents and farmers. But if I can maybe clarify a couple of things that maybe complicate things. A lot of the farmers in our community actually farm someone else's land. That may be one of the biggest issues that we have, where we notify the owner of the property, but that message isn't necessarily getting to the farmer that is farming that property. So that would be like kind of the first snag that we run into. Additionally, you know, we would love to get to the point where we have maintenance scheduled in December and January, but because the nature of these drains are that they go through farm property, they're heavily reactive. In fact, many of the times it's the farmers themselves who are, you know, complaining to the drainage superintendent that those drains need to be maintained. So, you know, there's often times where we don't know that early in the year which drains are going to be maintained, especially when it comes to maintenance. So that throws a little bit of a snag into things as well. But like I said before, we're constantly striving to notify earlier. We do make concessions as much as possible where if there's something in the field, if there's beans in the field or corn in the field, we'll try not to disturb it. We'll try not to cause too much damage, and we'll delay it as much as possible to make sure that the farmer can try and get their crops off of the field. The issue again is that just like Deputy Mayor Malash mentioned, our window is very, very short for drainage projects. You know, with the protection of turtles, fish, and the natural environment, snakes, our window for drainage projects is only about July 15th to the end of October. So it really doesn't provide us a lot of time through the summer to get drainage projects completed. So that also throws a bit of a snag. We do our best to try and protect our farming community and our agricultural community. So it's just a matter of, you know, making sure that we're doing as much as we can to help those farmers out, and that's exactly what we're doing. So we are notifying as giving them as much notice as possible.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody else? Thank you, Council.
Mr. Mayor, we can remove the motion now that we've had a discussion if you'd like.
Okay, thank you.
15.1.2 this evening, as moved by Councillor Bondi, that the Town of Essex Council discuss and direct administration to review the agenda and procedural bylaw for our regular council meetings, roll call of votes, the notice of motion process, and the submission of verbal reports to be discussed, along with any other suggestions from councillors to make improvements to public service. Would require a second.
Yeah, I need a seconder on this one. Councillor Guerin. Go ahead. Go ahead, Councillor Bondi.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just when we recently did the review of our procedure bylaw, it came at a time where there was other items on the agenda, and I really didn't, my fault, I guess, but I only have so many hours in a day, and I really wasn't able to thoroughly review the procedure bylaw to see if there was other things that we could incorporate. For example, at that meeting, there was an issue, something came down from the province that council members can now vote by proxy if they're gone. That might have come in handy tonight. If Councillor Bjorkman chose to exercise a proxy vote on the Crew Winery, he could have used it. Another example is just my other notice of motion. You know, at the beginning, earlier mail out for drain notices, maintenance works. On the sheet of the notices of motion that our administration gave us in the council chambers, I remember Councillor Vanderdolen and I both took a picture of it. And I have it on my phone. And on that sheet, it says a notice of motion must require an action item for administration. But some of the things like earlier mail outs, we had a discussion. It was a great discussion. We don't need to give further direction. So how does a councillor have a discussion with council in a public forum about an issue? That's where I'm having a really hard time. You know, I did listen to another point. Another councillor said last meeting, any councillor can bring up any topic at any meeting, but that's not true. Like, we can't openly discuss things. So I'm wondering if we can have a half an hour or an hour to discuss items. Or like maybe we want to have O Canada at Zoom meetings. Other municipalities are having O Canada at Zoom meetings. Maybe we want to have more recorded votes. Maybe we want to have a question period. Maybe we want to look at giving our delegations more time to get on agendas. Like, these are all things that I believe each term council should have a discussion on. And we've kind of thrown little bits and pieces and we're tweaking it piecemeal. But is there appetite with this council to have a discussion about are we enjoying the way our agenda is set up? You know, the notice of motion process is kind of painful, to be honest, but if I want to ask a question about, say, internet, I have to tie it into like a TELUS agreement. Like, I am getting to be able to discuss items on our agenda, but I have to sneak them in. I have to sneak in questions, and it shouldn't be like that. I should be able to say, you know what, okay, what's our update on our internet strategy, for example? I'd like to be able to discuss things here, but it's really hard, right? We rarely use old business. We rarely use new business because there's really no, but there's lots of old business, but we rarely use it. New business, we rarely use. We need to revise and update as a collective, I think. So just seeing if other councillors have any thoughts about delegations, recorded votes, our procedure bylaw, because I don't feel it's working to the best of our abilities for our residents, not for us, for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else? Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Verbeek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Bondi, for bringing this up. I would like to see us talk about this and see if there's ways to tweak it. I struggle myself with the notice of motion, and I think that it can be improved. I deferred my motion tonight because I didn't really have an action item to attach to it. I want to have a conversation with other counselors about their thoughts on this and to see if there's any suggested directions we could take it. But there doesn't seem to be an avenue to do that unless I make a notice of motion so that we can speak about it. And at that point, I feel like I have to have something that we can vote on and pass resolution at that point. Whereas if we could just have a venue where there's a conversation about it and we don't have to use the notice of motion process, then maybe one of the other counselors will have a suggestion on a better action item, a better resolution to move it along. So yeah, I think that that is one of the things we could look at in it, and always trying to improve is certainly beneficial to all of us and our residents.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you. Councillor Van Dolen, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Through you, well, it would be foolish for anyone to oppose tweaking a system to make it better, but I didn't want to second this notice of motion because it seems to be an attempt at a sweeping remake of how we conduct our business. And it seems to me that the result of doing, I don't even understand all of what somebody's driving at here, but it seems to me that it might open us up to becoming like an out of control talking shop. I know one of our local councils often talk until 11 o'clock over the same number of items we do. And that's a waste not only of the council's time, but of administration's time and the public's time. So if anybody can just raise anything anytime and let's yak about it for an hour, that's not productive. And you could cloak it in serving the people all you want, but basically it's just expanding the amount of talk. And I think that's why the procedural rules are that you have to have an action item. You can't just talk. You can't just yak over and over about the same subjects and, dredge stuff up from last year and 2 years ago. Let's talk about this again. That's not productive. And I think that you should have an action item for a notice of motion. And you can't just sort of hijack a meeting because you want to talk about something. There's got to be rules. And that's why Robert's Rules of Order have been so well developed over the last 300 years and why they have notices of motion. So you can't do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bowman, you had something to add here?
Just some comments from the past, I guess you would put it. I think with today's councils, we sort of lose the ability to sit and have discussions as a group. I know we've had some what we call training meetings where we sit and discuss certain aspects. Maybe we should be having some training meetings that are just to discuss certain things of our procedure and just sit around and talk about them. And then maybe some things could be brought back to regular council. They're productive sometimes, other times they don't produce anything, but at least you're not wasting what I'll consider valuable council time in a very regimented setting. So maybe we can start looking at something like that again. Again, it still would have to have some guidelines on how you move forward, but it's a less formal setting and gives you a little more freedom to talk freely and discuss some items. So just a thought that might be something useful for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Did you want to?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly to that. One of the changes we did introduce with the most recent version of the procedural bylaw, we brought back into the procedural bylaw the concept of a committee of the whole. Council will recall back, pre-COVID, we had a council roundtable. And so I think that was the intent, was to try to allow for some of that freer form discussion in the absence of all the typical rules of procedure that are in place. So that might be an avenue if it's council's wish to explore more. And certainly, certainly if there's other changes that council as a whole feels should be made, then, I would say administration would be open to that. by all means. The other point is that I want to mention is whether it's the next council meeting or the meeting after that, I do anticipate on behalf of clerks bringing a report with some sort of recommendations. And this is coming out of Bill 197, the COVID-19 Economic Recovery Act that the Ontario government passed, and I think it received assent in late July. So this current round of procedural bylaw changes were already in progress. But this piece of legislation, which is really wide-ranging, allows for a couple of things particular to the meetings, and I think Councillor Bondi touched upon it a few minutes ago. Number one, the ability to for absent councillors to appoint proxies. But the legislation allows for each municipality to basically decide whether that's something they want and what the parameters of that would look like. Secondly, the second major change is this legislation allows for greater or more flexible capabilities as far as holding the electronic meetings in some shape or form on a permanent basis. And so, but once again, it's basically a voluntary choice by each municipality, and each municipality would set the parameters for that. So I do anticipate coming to council soon with a report on that. And you know, and certainly if it's council's wish to look at other matters, by all means, we would be open to that.
Thank you, Rob. Deputy Mayor Malash, you had.
Yes, thank you, through you, Your Worship. I believe what Councillor Bowman was stating about having training sessions would help significantly to accommodate what Councillor Bondi is asking, to be able to talk about various projects that are ongoing. Two, would give administration an opportunity to talk about various projects that are on the go, and all of us may be wondering, maybe a solution to, you know, us as councillors being more informed about what's going on, rather than guessing or trying to call the CAO or a certain director to try and figure out, you know, what projects I need to ask about and where they're at. It gives us a sense of where administration, what administration is putting their efforts towards at that point in time as well. I mean, even our strategies, we've not had an opportunity to review our strategies, and it seems like a very long time. So maybe an evening meeting, virtual as it is, but still to just give us an update as to you know, where we're at with strategies and where administration is putting their time these days, what's taking up, you know, the bulk of their time and their teams. And again, if we want to perhaps allow each council member to, you know, throw out 5 questions that they have in advance to administration, to maybe have those questions answered that wouldn't necessarily come up in a normal meeting. So I think it's a great idea what Councillor Bowman suggested, is have a training meeting where we're updated on and educated on the projects that are ongoing.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
Is there any direction here?
No, Mr. Mayor, since our clerk says he's bringing back a report and council is suggested a training meeting, and I think there's a little bit of consensus there, I'll remove my motion.
You'll remove your motion?
Yes, because the clerk says he's bringing back a report on the proxy voting, which I think is something we need to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 15.1.3 was deferred to the September 21st meeting. Moving to 15.2, the following notices of motion are being presented only this evening and will be brought forward to the September 21st regular council meeting. 15.2.1, Councillor Bondi, that council give direction to administration to prepare a 5-year roads plan for council discussions, public transparency, and the budgeting process. And then the second notice of motion coming back to council September 21st is Councillor Bondi, that August 1st be declared as Emancipation Day in the town of Essex. Item 16, any reports and announcements from council members this evening?
Councillor Bondi, anything?
Just wanted to say that there was a fabulous market at Priscilla's Presence on the weekend, and also just want to announce this Friday in Harrow from Smith's Funeral Home to Sanford and Sons, there's going to be a night market. So hopefully the rest of council can come out and partake. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Guerin? Anything? No. Councillor Verbeek, anything?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I have a couple of things, so I'll try and speak quickly. The Essex County Steam and Gas Museum, as we know, they had to cancel their 36th annual parade and their event. But moving forward, they're going to be able to do a mini show. That's going to be September 19th and 20th with the tractor pull and several other of their regular events, but on a much smaller scale. Hopefully, many of us can try and get out there and support it. Also, the museum wants people to know that they're open on Wednesdays up until September 30th from 9:30 to 3. So, we have a whole bunch of students that are doing some e-learning and families that are, homeschooling. So maybe they can just take a trip out to the museum, step back in history and learn a little bit, make it a field trip. Also, they're having a fall steak dinner, fall harvest steak dinner. I'll have tickets for that. I'm hoping some other counselors will be willing to attend. $20 for, the big steak dinner. So we know how hard it's been for everybody that's been doing fundraising efforts. WETRA, another great facility in our community, does many fundraisers throughout the year. They work really hard at raising funds so they can provide this service for, as you know, our vulnerable population that enjoy the service. It's near and dear to my heart because my 21-year-old autistic son learned to love animals and ride during his teens there and looked forward to his weekly half hour with the horses. So they're still offering a service, but it's very limited, one client at a time, keeping with the COVID standards. They are down already $130 in fundraising. So they have a fundraiser they're putting out right now, and the tickets are 3 chances for $10 to win their big money prizes. I'm going to be picking a couple of books of those up tomorrow, as I will be going by the Steam and Engine Place to pick up some steak dinner tickets. I'm hoping fellow counselors and staff and anybody in the community that's interested in supporting these great places in our community that have lost their ability to fundraise. A $10 ticket gets you a chance at a couple $1,000. So I'd be happy to deliver them. And thank you for your expected support. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Bowman, do you have anything? No. Deputy Mayor Malash, do you have anything? No. Councillor Vandendal, you're last. Do you have any?
Thank you.
What's that? Go ahead.
Not this week. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Only have one thing to say very quickly, and I'm going to touch on the COVID virus again. Please be careful. The numbers are going up across the province, and please just be careful.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 17, bylaws. 1944, to confirm the proceedings of the August 24th meeting for third reading this evening.
Councillor Bowman and Deputy Mayor Malash, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
And 1945, to confirm the proceedings of this September 8th, 2020 regular council meeting, 2 readings.
Mover, please. Councillor Verbeek and Councillor Guerin, all in favor? Carried. And adjournments in order. Deputy Mayor Malash and Councillor Vandendal, all in favor? And Councillor Bondi, can you please do me a favor? Email me on the exact information you want from the health unit, please. The breakdown of the ages, okay? Thank you. Thank you, council, and have a nice evening.